Don't you guys have phones? You know the drill. So guys, it's official. Diablo Immortal has won. All of the people who kept the fight against pay-to-win practices pretty much lost the skirmishes they had. The game made over 20 million American dollars in 2 weeks, even though all of the media released one of the biggest campaigns about pay-to-win games I've ever seen in my life. And yet, Bobby Kotick made over 20 mil by selling a bad reskin of a Chinese mobile game to mostly an American audience. The worst thing is, the game is still not even released to the biggest mobile market in the world, China, so most likely the most pay-to-win game I've ever seen in my life is going to make over $500 million in the next 6 months once the game gets released on the China market. The game is not released in China just because someone at Blizzard's HR department decided to post a really unfortunate stuff about China's holy leader, so their co-op partner in crime, NetEase, had to postpone the release, or should I say, they weren't allowed to release the game. I mean, Blizzard has a very bad track record of keeping their mouths shut. Whenever they get attacked by a lot of streamers, people working at Blizzard couldn't just shut up and forget about the stuff happening around them. They had to get very vocal on Twitter about streamers, which in their opinion are problematic and are catalysts of toxic audience around their games. So as you can see, Blizzard employees are pretty much clueless about what they are supposed to do. After all, they are not able to release any decent game for about 12 years. But it really doesn't matter. The game is going to make a bank, Bobby will get his new yacht, and the Blizzard boomer audience will have a great time spending both their time and money on a soulless mobile ripoff of another soulless game. And while most of you know that, let me make something clear. Diablo Immortal made visible a lot of different problems which for gaming normies and gaming dads were invisible. Most of the mobile games are basically whale hunters, and if you are not up to pay something close to 10k euro a month, you are basically a plankton for some random loser whale, which rather than spend the said money on cool stuff, spend it on more fancy and flashy pachinko, because he's too lazy to get on a boat to gamble his money away on a roulette or blackjack like a normal, non-dysfunctional degenerate that he isn't. And as a mobile game dolphin level enjoyer, I can tell you straight up, this game was a wake-up call for a lot of normies saying the state of gaming in general is not that bad. And newsflash, the state of video games in general is going downwards since 2015. The AAA games are getting more and more microtransactions, and there is less quality in every game released overall. There is a bigger chance to get something resembling a quality of the past video games in indie projects or survival games made by tiny game studios. I mean, I've most likely spent more time in Valheim or Vampire Survivors than I've spent on any AAA game during the last 6 years, and if I wouldn't be jaded and cynical, I would try to say some uplifting stuff about how the gamers will rise up and stop the bastardization and deterioration of modern video games. The thing is, we won't. Most of the old school gamers are 30-year-old balding boomers with wife and kids, working their 8 to 5 job and having very little time to play the same way as they used to when they were 16. Right now, those people don't have time to spend on some random farm in-game. They are already doing it in their job, so they can acquire better currency than some random video game emblem or token of something. The currency they get is called money. And since most of the gaming companies know that, they are more than happy to take the said currency from gamers to basically sell them the same thing the people are used to having, but with extra steps and additional price tag. And if you think the younger audience is going to be a little more smart than the said boomers, you must be delusional or American. Zoomers are doing the exact same thing as we did, but also spend their welfare money on some useless skins or stuff from the item shop with no remorse at all. They will become the future players, in future Korean grindfest MMOs, as long as the characters will look sexy and cool rather than Western. And don't take me wrong, Diablo Immortal has all of the qualities which will make it a successful mobile game. It's made to hook you up with an okay combat system, develop a habit of constantly logging in and checking in-game store, to later on change the whole process into a lifestyle. That's exactly the same system that the other media made people consume the content without any thought or remorse at all. If you are a guy who found himself as a Star Wars fan, it all came with the first movie which hooked you up to the universe, and then the next movies or TV series which made you stay and become a mindless consumer of everything related to the Star Wars. If you are a boring non-athletic nerd with little to none social skills, you could just get hooked to World of Warcraft and become a Warcraft universe fan, to later on become a player of Diablo Immortal. You get the drill, boys? And to all of you asking, how could we get rid of the pay-to-win games? You can't. The only way to get rid of those games would be to get as many governments of most spending countries like the USA, South Korea, Japan, China or Germany to basically do the same stuff as the gigachas from the Netherlands or Belgium did to get rid of the FIFA Ultimate Team and the other lootbox shenanigans. That's a pretty optimistic way to see things happening in the future. Right now there is just a few consumer groups which are basically researching the topic and talking very loudly about banning the lootbox scheme rather than getting things done. I mean, even in Poland, if I try to log in into a site which I've seen on a stream on my favorite video game website called twitch.tv, I get an information going indoor is prohibited and my government is telling me to get out and touch some grass. Meanwhile, if I get on some random CSGO case website, I can go hard and spend all of my savings on some random Zoom case, get a very little of nothing in return, and be happy because I'm living in a real country of freedom. Poor, addicted to gambling, and also unhappy because the things which I used to love are getting worse and worse every day.